Right, guys, so yeah, today was an upper body day, and I think this was a really good day for me because I focused on my shoulders and back. However, it was really checking, do I have sufficient mobility at the end of my workout, as I did a couple of leaning against the wall and then doing a shoulder press with just my hands as it had to touch the wall, but you'll see that at the end of the video. So if you'd like to see that, you can always skip ahead and go watch that. But for now, it's just warming up. And for me, it's always really important to warm up my upper body, especially my shoulders, when doing upper body exercises, as I do want to feel that I'm activating the right muscles. And by using a band, it definitely helps because I can actually feel where the contraction is, and that will then translate into the exercise as well. So with this, I would say my back was really on fire, and it's because the force required to have a full extension at the top of the band is quite a lot. So by doing this all the time and having that squeeze, it really puts that mind-muscle connection there for you to understand that when you go and do these exercises, it definitely helps to know when you're moving heavier weight, what is the best place for you. Well, not place, I'm now just rambling, but just the best muscle connection that you can actually make. So then I went over to do some banded shoulder raises, lateral raises, and once again it's getting more difficult as you go higher up the movement, as the band is getting elongated. So therefore it's a great warm-up. Of course, the force required is not the same throughout the movement, where it would be more or less the same with a dumbbell, but here at least you can do a bunch of different things without having to change your stance or anything, and you can really focus on one arm exercises. So I do this, it's about a 5-minute routine all in all before I start, and it is definitely worth your while to try and do this properly. I would say with some of these exercises I can use maybe a dumbbell with the band to ensure that it is a bit better for like the next exercise, which can then be the shoulder press or even just a heavier band. So here I'm warming up with 20 kilos, and I do think my shoulders is a bit lacking because for many years I really did not focus on them. So here, I mean, you can see the striations and things, and they look pretty decent, but I do think they're a bit small in comparison to the rest of my body. So my first working set was 30 kilos dumbbell press, and I think my elbows is a bit flared out, a bit actually too much, and I don't know if I should be dropping a bit lower with each rep, because that's pretty much just like head height that the weight goes. So maybe it would be better for me to drop the weight a bit, let's say like 27.5 kilos around there, and go a bit lower to try and touch or just be above the shoulders. So I think I'll try that next time by going a bit lower with the weight, so I can get a better range of motion, because this is then mostly incorporating upper pec and then front delt to really get this movement going. So definitely we'll try that next time. Then after this I went over to do some rear flies. Now this took me a while because I'm now at a new gym, and because I'm not knowing exactly what the weight stacks are and how they would work, because each machine that you work on it's different. So this took me a while to get to the best working weight. This was way too light, And I'm also trying to focus on my rhomboids and traps a bit more with this exercise. So here I try to then keep my arms straight instead of having a bend in my elbow. So can try and focus on incorporating the back a lot more than anything else. Because if I'm doing it with a bent arm, it means that some parts might be taking over. Maybe I'm doing a bit more of another part of my back which I don't want to use. So now it's getting a bit heavier, and I think the contraction is much better because I'm pushing and I'm actually squeezing a lot more. So I think going heavier on this is really needed for me, but you'll have to play around with it and see for yourself whether it is a good exercise or not. So I'm starting to cheat here as well, because on the way back my arms is bending and then I'm doing like a tricep extension, it seems like, to get the full range of motion. But here you can see from this angle that it's really a good contraction in the mid back, and I'm trying to incorporate as much as possible by doing it like this. Because there are parts of your back and of your shoulders, your rear delts, that you don't really get to train that well by other exercises that one does. So it is advisable to try different things to see where do you feel the best contraction. And for me, this was an okay exercise. It wasn't the best, but I think it's definitely better than some other exercises. The other one that I would possibly do again is just bend over rear delt flies with dumbbells, as that's really on the rear delt much more than anything else. And then I went over to do just this exercise for my back, where I just stand and I try and squeeze. And if you hear anything in the background, that's my dog just whining. Right, so this is also good to get a good contraction within the lats, to try and get that full range of motion, as it is a different range than, let's say, doing a pull down or a pull up or a front arm grip or something. So this definitely is as well a good exercise for your lats, as well as a portion of your back, like your mid to lower back, as there's a big squeeze there. And I did that for around 3 to 4 sets. Then I went over to do dumbbell front and lateral raises, and I did this, if I remember correctly, it was sets of 10, 9, 8, because I remember I was counting to 20 and then 16, no, 20, 18, 16. That, I think that was my rep count that I did overall. So therefore this was just lowering the rep count by 1 with each set, and it definitely is quite strenuous. And of course I'm trying to swing as little as possible, but here you can see I'm still swinging a bit. So I definitely have to next time just sit on the bench and exclude any swinging from happening. But of course I'll have to also lower the weight. So that's one thing with shoulders. It's not always needed to go super heavy to get a good activation in your shoulders, but rather just do the exercise properly. Many people think that you have to do the heaviest weight possible to get a good contraction and to grow your delts, but it definitely isn't the case. As long as you're doing it properly and you're having the good muscle activation and so forth, it is advisable to drop the weight and at least do slow movements and get that in. So as I mentioned before, my shoulders have always been my lacking part, I feel, and by doing this I'm getting ready to start doing some strict military presses as well. So with the next thing that I did, it is really just checking my mobility of my back as well as my shoulders and how tight things are. Because with this, I'm supposed to, of course, my butt has to touch the wall, my head has to touch, my upper back has to touch, and my core has to be flat against the wall as well. So you can't arch your lower back. But I'm supposed to have my forearms even closer to the wall when doing this, but it's quite difficult because your back has to be further extended, be further I would say contracted then to try and get that full range of motion in. But do this for around 15 reps each time and try not to move your upper body or any touching points from the wall. I here changed my arm so it's a bit more inwards to try and see if that makes any difference, but it is definitely something to try, and I'll keep on doing this as it is a great range of motion and mobility exercise. Right, that was it for my upper body day, and next will then be another exercise. So if you guys want to keep on watching, stay tuned for the next one. See you then. Bye bye.